Hello everybody! We have a new original species and it's brought to you by Beetle, a previous sponsor of this channel. You might know Beetle Yeen as Bubblegum Bark, the 3D model maker who's made models like parasaurs, thylacines, kobolds, goats, sheeps, big cats, hyenas, canines, pride pups, and more recently their horse VR chat model that also has unicorns in it and stuff. They're known for a more fursuit-like 3D model style. Well, they also made an original species, and it came out today when I recorded this, called H1Y33N, or Hyene. At first, you might think these are protogen that are hyenas, and while that's not very far off, there are some distinct differences between them and protogen that we'll go over, but as usual, we'll go over the lore first. Keep in mind, this original species is open and very new. There might not be a lot of things that you've come to expect from other original species. Lore. There is none. Beetle... There is none. Beetle makes 3D models, and it's not uncommon for modelers to make original species to make models with and not focus much on things like lore. Beetle plans to make them into 3D models as well, so this isn't uncommon as many of you have asked me to cover many species that only exist as 3D models, and as you'll find out if you've looked at their pages before suggesting them, you'd see that there's no lore, which I believe this lack of lore is just a symptom of modernization. Since people have 3D models, they can interact in person and don't really, roleplay as much as they used to. So there isn't as much of a need to make lore if no one is using it. For example, you'd be surprised how often I hear that people are surprised that protogen have lore and rules. Design. Now this is something I can talk a lot about, because there's a lot going on here. The design here is straightforward, and we have some strong themes of retrofuturism. Retrofuturism is an art style pioneered by the late 50s, 60s era, it might be further back than that, and was named more recently. Shrimply, it means that the art is reminiscent of how the artists of the past might view the future. Hovering cars and stuff like that, the Jetsons. This means strong themes of chrome, shutters, valves, exposed electricity, and exposed bolts. The strongest theme is always chrome, but pretty much everything I named, previously, is present in the design of hyenas, but with the addition of their fleshy head being planted on their robotic body, which is pretty much the only thing besides the screens that isn't retrofuturistic. Screens can be retrofuturism, but they're typically on the chest of robots and not as a faceplate. The primary traits of the hyene is the chrome-paneled body, exposed bolts and screws, screens on the face, screens on the paw pads, vents, screw-on wings, collars, and cyborg-like heads. Beetle is open to most of these things being changed, with the most important thing being that legs, arms, waist, and face are all robotic, and the head is held on with a collar. By the way, I really like this aspect of the design. The head being held on by a collar is very reminiscent of Frankenstein's monster, but with a collar instead of bolts sticking out of the neck. If Frankenstein's monster was part robotic, I think it would be a very similar design. So this is a very good mix of not just retrofuturism, but Frankensteinian-like design. The vents are located on the upper thigh, where they vent off all sorts of gases, with one of Beetle's characters giving off a sleepy gas, and you're encouraged to get creative with what the fumes could be. The vents open and close in a camera lens style shutter, rather than the vents that you would see on most technology now that works like blinds. This is another feature that gives them a more futuristic or alien appearance, shrimply because it doesn't match our current technology. Blinds are just shrimpler and more reliable. The knees and elbows appear to be similar to gaskets, or like a bendy straw. Exposed screws are present all over, like on the optional screw-on wings, but they're located elsewhere, like on the back of the legs and along the back of the chassis or torso. The screen on the face and paws are somewhat similar to a protogen visor, but the screens here are a part of the body and not just a visor. There isn't any art of what it would look like without those screens, but you'd have to assume it wouldn't be another face, but tech instead. If you're unfamiliar with protogen, this face shows a variety of facial expressions, shapes, and patterns in the form of light patterns, much like a TV screen. As a bonus, the paws can be 4 digits or 5 with a little thumb. It might be a little misleading from the perspective, but the face isn't flat or a uniform round shape like that of a protogen, but instead is shaped more like a bean or a heart when viewed from the side. As for organic parts, we have the head, ears, mane, and tail. These are pretty straightforward yin parts and can be based on any real-world hyena such as brown, spotted, striped, and aardwolf. The ears have metal insides with little vents inside for hearing, but that's pretty much it for design. I don't usually talk about the art of a design, but the theming of this one was really strong and I felt like I had to. If you want to make your own, I put a link to the original post in the description where you can follow the creator, alongside a link to their Ko-fi page where you can get the free base. Next, I'll be talking about rules, but I wanted to talk about some me stuff real quick. If you missed out on the keychains in October, I have some good news for you. I have another unique merch idea I'm doing, and the link to that is in the description. This time it's only $10, a lot more doable. It's a tarot card with some art of me on it, similar to the bonus cards that were, sold with the keychains, and it has a QR code on it. When you scan the code, it'll take you to a Google Drive folder with a personalized message just for you. It's super simple to do. You'll pre-order on Ko-fi, email me at serasthings@gmail.com with what you want your message to be, along with your address and name you want me to call you. Then I'll record it and upload it. You'll scan your card when it arrives, and then find the video with your name. Then you can watch it or download it. If this one does well, I'll order a big batch of cards and sell them throughout the year. The link to order is in the description, and I'll see you in your own very special video. Rules. The rules are pretty light on this one because it's an open species. I'm going to keep this one as a bulleted list since it's just rules. Beings are held together by screws, so every metal part is removable and replaceable. They can speak any language. Screens can display anything. The chest, neck, and head are organic. Mechanical parts can simulate organics, but will be metal inside. You can have horns, accessories, wings, and anything else as long as it can be attached with screws. So I assumed the screws have to be visible too. Crediting is encouraged, but not required. You can sell adopts and customs. 3D models can be made, but only after Beetle makes their model first. Other than that, do what you want. My opinions. People wanted me to start reviewing species, and I don't think I'll be doing that. I will say some of my opinions though, but I won't be scoring anything, unless the creator asks me to. I think art is subjective, and while there can be good and bad art, I don't think it's helpful to score it. So my main issue with it are issues that come from new releases, and this is a very, very new release. It's filmed the day that they came out. There isn't any lore, which I consider to be pretty mandatory for an original species. It's cool to have a neat design, and there is some inferred lore from the design, but I'd like to see a more concrete story here. Like, how are they made? What is their society like? What made them need to be part machine? I don't need a full breakdown of anatomy like Dutchies, but I'd like to see some more. Another issue I have is that there is no community center, no place for people to gather and share designs other than just being on Twitter. I think there should be a Discord, which I believe Beetle does have one, but it's not linked in the species info where people can join easily and find it. I think there needs to be a place for fans to gather so that they can share updates with the community. My last issue is they only exist on Twitter and soon Gumroad. The only people who will find this species are Beatles fans and my fans, people who see this video. This is fine considering they don't have lore, they don't really need a website, so they don't really need a place to host all this info, but I'd like to see a card page or a similar single page site, someplace that is easily searchable so that if I Google robotic hyena or something like that, they'll actually show up in the Google searches. Other than that, I love the design. I personally won't be making one because I have a lot of other art projects I'm working on, like Nomchromancy. That's on the end card if you haven't heard of what that is yet. But I love the retro-futuristic design, the proto-gen visor-style screen, the exposed machinery like screws. It's an incredibly well-designed species and well thought out with a cohesive style. But there isn't much that can be said because it is very early on in the species' life. So we'll have to see where it goes. But that's it for now. I'll see you all later. Bye! Thanks to all my patrons on Patreon. Because of this, I can continue eating the classic human holiday cuisines, like Christmas trees. So thanks again to Mystic Mitsuki, Bait, Cryptid Artha, Sly, Colorado Blue, Linky, Kit Chimera, Vaderson, Series, and Malding Brick. Thank you all for being so awesome. It's been a great year, and I look forward to another one. Bye-bye.